Hello and good morning. Today is February 20th, 2018. It's my day 1.284, and it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful early spring day. Very nice. And need to talk a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. It also enables me to practice my voice a little bit and see how I sound, as well as talk a little bit about what's on my mind. And this is totally unrehearsed, as always. So, I had a personal encounter last night with a conversation with my child um, about being gender fluid. And without going into detail, because it's definitely personal and private to her, I think, but what I can talk about somewhat being a parent is I have, when my voice has got a little bit of phlegm in it. But I have always, not always, but I've felt like an argument many, many moons ago. You can give me some support. Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Someone had said to me that, or an argument against being transgender or transitioning would be how it would affect your children, okay? And if you were a person with a lot of hate in your heart and you would say, well, you can't transition because you're going to hurt your children, okay? A concern of mine would be hurting my child. And so, you can play with my hair too? My child approached me yesterday to say, hey, can we not show breast, please? To express a little bit about gender fluid. And a concern is, did I make that happen? And I don't believe so. Definitely there's been research and studies done, two gay people raising a child does not necessarily mean that the child is gay, okay? In much the same way that, there's no logic and reason behind that line of thinking. It's fear, okay? So I'm not really concerned about that, but I wanted to address it. But looking at it from my perspective as a 46-year-old trans woman who is 5 weeks, 5 weeks and 2 days away from having GCS, I have a very different perspective than I did 2 or 3 years ago before I decided to transition, okay? So I'm a little bit older, hopefully a little bit wiser. But right now I'm just trying to do some research. What does it mean? Does it mean anything? Is my child gender fluid? Is my child agender? No gender. Does gender have to do anything with it? I mean, if you're a parent, you know that your child can be talking about something on the bus with another kid, and or they come home or they see a YouTube video or whatever strikes their fancy, and they can talk to you about just about anything if you have open communication. And so, again, my daughter, saying she didn't like it when people assumed she was a girl, I was like, does that mean she's transgender? And I'm still trying to listen and ask questions. Oh, there's some more phlegm. Pardon me. I guess I should not say that. However, or, again, if it's not my fault, okay, people are what they are. And it doesn't necessarily just because someone doesn't want to be called she and her, you know, my immediate thought was to run towards transgender, okay, which shows my training in this world of perhaps gender fluid or a gender spectrum. Again, you know, a person can be totally happy with the body that they're in and it have nothing to do with, you know, so I don't know, that's what I'm kind of dealing with right now. And, you know, she has asked that I use you know, they, them, theirs pronouns. And so, you know, that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. And I can do that. I mean, shit, look at me, right? I can handle that. But again, it's one of those things. I read this morning about agender, neither male nor female, you know, and an agender person doesn't feel male or female. They don't want to be either. You know, it's one thing. The reality that I experienced was being in the wrong body, but knowing I was the other gender. So I'm really trying to, it's a stretch, okay, for me to imagine not being one or the other, or being both, or being neither. You know what I mean? I mean, our world is so, you know, our world is not ready for that yet. You know, we're getting there as far as gender neutral bathrooms, you know, but we're not there yet, you know, and how realistic is it for me? What I did today is I called and I sent an email to my daughter's current principal at her elementary school and an email to the principal at the middle school she's going to, as well as an email to the superintendent of schools, and just said, hello, can you show me, can you point me in the right direction? Do you have any resources as a parent for a gender fluid child or a non-binary child or a gender expansive? I heard that term today. A gender expansive child, you know, and what accommodations would they do? What training, you know, that's what I asked is can you tell me what your policy is? What is your, what training do you give your staff and everything? I mean, again, from where I come from at my job, yearly we get training on the inclusion and diversity, okay? And so I guess what I'm driving at is it's one thing to say, you know, I am Terry Page and I am the principal of Yucca Yucca Middle School and I believe in gender inclusion and diversity. But it's another thing to set policy in place, you know, your school board, your student handbook, all of those things. And how do you set aside bathrooms? You know what I mean? It's a big, I'm trying to speak more and fuck it, front of my throat. And my voice is not communicating. My voice is not cooperating today, and I'm getting kind of mad at it. I can get mad at my voice. So what I'm trying to say is, there we go. You know, again, it's easy to say it, but then how do you put it into practice? And will it be there when my daughter needs it to be? You know what I mean? And maybe there's a little bit of understanding that needs to take place where, excuse me, let's say that I am a gender fluid individual or I am an agender individual. I need to allow other people the opportunity to mess up, you know, by looking at me And what I've tried to do is I want you to say, it's a woman, okay? But how reasonable is it for me to not wear makeup and get a boy's haircut and wear a skirt and someone to say, oh, KP, a gray owl, is, a nonconformist. I don't think that's very reasonable. Now, society has the ability, much like my workplace, to say, hello, gray owl. How should I address you? How would you prefer that I address you? What pronouns do you prefer? That is doable. But how reasonable is it for us to expect people that we just meet on the street or at the grocery store or at the bus stop to do that? You know what I mean? Really. Shit, I get upset when people misgender me now. Okay? Can you imagine? I'm trying to fit into the female binary camp. Okay? And you could say, yes, well, our society is progressing, we're developing, we're a spectrum, we're the genderbread man, we're the gender unicorn, we're spectrum of gender, spectrum of sexuality, spectrum of identification, spectrum of presentation. But I don't, how many generations is that going to take? We're not Star Trek The Next Generation, okay? Guys walking around in skirts and, so I don't know. I think there has to be a little bit of grounding in reality. Not to say that reality can't change, but I think it's a bit of a challenge to just assume things are going to change overnight, And, that's the other thing too, that you talk about, again, transgender. We know we're this, we want to be that, or we know we're that, but in the meantime, we are having this. And so we transition. Can you imagine, not wanting either? And yet, that is the way the world is. It's like me teaching myself German, okay? And why in the hell is a skirt considered masculine? So you say, der Rock. You give the masculine to a skirt, der Rock, but it's a female garment. Or pants, you go, die Hose as feminine. You know what I mean? It's so, but then for me to say German has to change because it's not gender neutral. Why can't everything be das, Das Blastiv, das, you know what I mean? It's like there has to be a bit of flexibility and also an understanding, and maybe that's maturity, I don't know. But, who knows? Maybe this is this gets the ball rolling, and I imagine I'm not alone, obviously. There's lots of websites. I looked at them this morning as far as gender fluid or gender expansive. I like that. I like that word, expansive. But again, I don't, the concern that I had was it was my fault, that I did something wrong, and I know that's not true. As much as my transgenderism had nothing to do with my parents, in my opinion. That's just life. That was the mutation that happened, and they say some people believe that your soul, if you believe in a soul, is on this journey for a reason. And so my hope is I'm learning something from this turn of the wheel. And when I die, if I get reincarnated as something else, then, that'll be my next lesson, I guess. But, you can't, can you expect an 11-year-old to comprehend that, you know? But it's such a paradigm shift. So I don't know. I'm trying to rationalize and think about it and work on it. And, I've definitely um, I've offered counseling. I'm trying to be supportive. I'm listening. And this needs to play itself out, I suppose. But I think it's something that is transparent. It's something that we're concerned about, whether we, um, you know, is our lifestyle affecting our children? And one can hope that being a little open to the idea of gender spectrum and gender expression, that our children are better people. They can use those skills to deal with different people as they become adults. And then the second thing is, oh, sorry, baby. Keep on putting my fist down on my cat's hand here. Sorry. The other thing is, how do our children express or identify with us? As I am trying to understand and my background and what I've done, I think I'm pretty open-minded, As I am trying to understand her, she's trying to understand me. So lots that's off. So lots of opportunity. Now lots of opportunity for growth. Maybe that's what this is about too. I don't know. But something to think about, I guess. So, yeah. No one said being a parent was easy, and no one said being a transparent was easy either. So on that note, I guess I better sign off. And I don't know if I've actually solved anything, but I've definitely talked about it. And if you have any thoughts, let me know. But it's just so very different. Not different. Part of me is sad because if my child is gender expansive, she's got a rough road ahead of her. You know what I mean? For the next 20 or 30 years. But I know that I'm definitely looking at it from my perspective, which is not what the kids today are doing. You know what I mean? And maybe there's some knowledge that I will gain and understanding too. I recognize that I am but one viewpoint, one perspective on this. So I guess we just have to live and learn. But all right, well, that's about it. Just wanted to say thank you and appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts, by all means, put it in the comments or whatnot. And I hope everything is wonderful in your journey. Definitely challenges arise, and this is one of them. And hopefully we learn and we become better people from it. One can hope, and life will go on. So for today, for February 20th, I wish you the best of luck in fulfilling your potential and becoming the best version of yourself as you define it, that you want to be. Okay? Until next time, bye-bye.